Alright, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Hillside, and today we're going to talk about recharging your raised bed soils. Now, if you look before you here, this half of the raised bed, I have some Jackson Wonder bush lime is growing, and they're doing great. Now, do I want to eat the beans? Absolutely, but they're also doing another purpose right now. Well, these are legumes. They're actually helping to improve the soil structure and adding nitrogen. So that's one benefit of growing beans as well. As long as you practice the no-till method, make sure you keep the roots in the ground, compost on top, the green material, leave it all together. That organic bioaccumulation is just going to improve the soil structure over time. So please do that. Now, anyways, right here, just this morning I harvested some potatoes. Now, last year I grew in this raised bed all potatoes, and I had a giant pile. I mean, I had 3 5-gallon buckets overflowing with potatoes, and they were just massive. Well, this year, aside from 1 or 2 really big potatoes, I was getting potatoes about this size. These are the purple Majesty, and these are some Yukon Gold or yellow potatoes, and they're fine for eating. They're just fine, but they're not just massive healthy potatoes. So what I've realized by digging around in the soil is the soil, well, it's kind of tired. So let's go take a look at what the soil looks like right now. Alright, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Hillside, and today we're going to talk about recharging your raised bed soils. Now, if you look before you here, this half of the raised bed, I have some Jackson Wonder bush lime is growing, and they're doing great. Now, do I want to eat the beans? Absolutely, but they're also doing another purpose right now. Well, these are legumes. They're actually helping to improve the soil structure and adding nitrogen. So that's one benefit of growing beans as well. As long as you practice the no-till method, make sure you keep the roots in the ground, compost on top, the green material, leave it all together. That organic bioaccumulation is just going to improve the soil structure over time. So please do that. Now, anyways, right here, just this morning I harvested some potatoes. Now, last year I grew in this raised bed all potatoes, and I had a giant pile. I mean, I had 3 5-gallon buckets overflowing with potatoes, and they were just massive. Well, this year, aside from 1 or 2 really big potatoes, I was getting potatoes about this size. These are the purple Majesty, and these are some Yukon Gold or yellow potatoes, and they're fine for eating. They're just fine, but they're not just massive healthy potatoes. So what I've realized by digging around in the soil is the soil, well, it's kind of tired. So let's go take a look at what the soil looks like right now. Alright, so checking out this soil right here. It's still light, fluffy, and crumbly. All this hay material was on top as a mulch for the potatoes, so there are little bits and pieces of this in there. The soil is light and fluffy and crumbly, but it's well, you just have to kind of get an eye for it, and over time you realize that this soil is just worn out. It's just tired. So I need to supercharge this soil. Look at this side right here. Last year when I planted the potatoes, the soil was as tall as this, if not a little bit higher, with the straw mulch, hay mulch, whatever, on top raised up above, at least a couple inches above the bed. Now it's sunk all the way down that far. So not only did the potatoes deplete this soil of nutrition, when I composted this spring before planting potatoes again, I didn't do a very good job. I didn't add nearly enough. So I kind of paid the price with my harvest yield. So what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to supercharge this up. And my goal is to get this soil, like I said, nice and amended. And then in the fall, I'm going to plant this into garlic. So, garlic's typically planted late October, maybe late November, but you're pushing it. So mid to late October, before that first frost really kicks in. So I have this being mid-July. I have enough time that I'm going to amend the soil and then actually add a cover crop on top of this soil that's going to help also add some more organic structure to the soil. I'm going to be able to then terminate that cover crop, have it break down in the soil, adding even more nitrogen, and then planting the garlic into that after it's broken down in the fall. So hopefully with these steps in mind, I'm going to be able to get some nice big garlic for the following season next year. But you got to plan ahead. So you want big garlic next year, you got to start working this year, okay? Too many times people will say they want to grow something and they'll just run out there and just try to plant something without taking the time to prepare the soil, prior and letting the soil have enough time to kind of live, develop that organic matter, those root structures, microorganisms, worms, etc., to help get that soil ready so that it's able to produce whenever the time comes. So let's talk about the ingredients I'm adding to my raised bed amending project. Okay, so number one right here, this is relatively fresh horse manure. It's probably about a month old. It's not been completely composted or broken down, but that's all right because I'm not going to be, like I said, growing crops directly into this. And it's going to add a lot of soil structure, microorganisms, and it's going to add just a lot of just organic matter that's going to help break down and help recharge and revitalize this soil. So fresh horse manure. Luckily, I live just 10 minutes from a like the horse stables where they have many horses, and basically free to anyone who's willing to come pick it up. They're just giant manure piles. So if you have this available, I would honestly recommend horse manure over cow or any other kind of animal manure. Chicken manure can be too hot and kind of burn your stuff out. I figure that in my experience, horse manure is the mildest and easiest to use more readily in the garden without the potential for negative consequences. So that being said, over here, this is just a pot that I had some plant in. The plant didn't do well. I don't know why it never took after I planted it. So this is just some potting soil, some topsoil mix, you get for the raised bed, garden soil bags, whatever. So that's another thing, guys. Don't throw your plants out, especially even in the fall. Whenever you have flowers and things like this, just take the soil, put it in your raised beds, put it in your actual garden. Don't throw it away. That drives me crazy. You go by the side of the road and people have like an old dead withered up plant in a flower pot. They're throwing the entire flower pot, the soil away and everything. I mean, at the very least, save the flower pot, because I mean, you can repurpose that, but the soil is just fine to reuse. So just because the plant that was in this didn't make it, I'm still going to reuse this soil and add that to my material. Now this right here, this is horse manure, but this is also about 3 to 5 years old. I can't really put a date on it, but from the same area at the horse stables where I got the fresh manure, off to the back, where it's not really accessible by vehicle or large equipment. Over time, this stuff breaks down, and this stuff here is just, I mean, like I said, it's completely broken down, crumbly, completely just organic. This guy had a lot of soil structure, a lot of just overall, not so much nutrition per se, as it is pretty well composted down, but it's going to add soil conditioning, soil water retention, and it's going to attract a lot of microorganisms and nutrients and hold those into your soil. At this time, if you want to, now would be a great time to add some slow release fertilizer in this mix. If you'd like, I think that where it's just such a small area that really just putting too much chemical fertilizer, or even if it's organic, it's just going to be a little bit overkill at this point because of the sheer amount of other organic matter we're adding to just this small little raised bed area. So let me go ahead and dump this stuff in the bed and kind of get it mixed up and talk about the cover crop mix I'm going to use and what I hope to achieve by adding a cover crop to this raised bed. All right, so I cannot believe this bed took all that organic material. All the horse manure, which I put on the bottom, so it's not going to be in the top layer of the soil. It's going to be down there, so it's going to get more access to the beneficial worms and microbes that are, down lower in the existing garden soil, can come up and feed on that. So I did that, then I added the composted down manure on the top, along with the repurposed, recycled potting soil from that old pot of mine. So speaking of the cover crop, it can be a really technical process. People start analyzing this and this and this and this. My philosophy is here, all I want to do is get something growing in the soil to number one, keep it from being exposed, because exposed soil equals weeds. I made a video on that, so do check that one out to kind of show you exactly what it means. When the soil is exposed, it is a safe haven for weed seeds to just take hold and root, but soil that is covered has a natural tendency to block out weeds and outcompete the weeds for the space, the sunlight, and the nutrition. So that being said, what I have here, and you may have these things already in your house and not even realize it, because you're not growing these crops to eat. These are more or less just to add a lot of organic matter. It's going to grow up. You're going to cut it down, let it break back down into the soil. So it can really be anything, in my opinion. Now, what is a cover crop? It's something that covers the ground. Okay, does it have to be a specific blend? Not necessarily. Does it need to be of a certain family? I mean, within reason. You don't want to put certain things. You're not going to use corn as a cover crop, for instance, because that wouldn't really break down as well, and it would actually probably take more nutrients and return to the soil anyways, but that's for another time. But right here, all I have is this is an old package of Kentucky Wonder green beans. And inside of there, basically I have a couple of shoe boxes where I keep all my seeds in, and I had a package of radish that spilled everywhere. I think some turnip seeds in there, and over the time, just my shoe box, you know, just had accumulated just a big pile of seeds at the bottom. So there's a bunch of mustard in here, there's some beets, a lot of radishes, some beans, some other stuff in there, and I'm going to use that as my cover crop. So don't overthink it. This is didn't cost me anything new. I mean, I had to buy the seeds originally, but now this is going to add so much wonderful organic material to the soil once it is able to grow up and then break down. I had mentioned before, this is mid-July, and like I said, you don't plant the garlic till we'll call it mid-October. So you want to let this have at least 2 weeks, maybe 3, to once you cut the cover crop down, to really get in there and let it break down before you want to plant something into it. So this being July 10th, we'll give it August to September. That's 2 months. Maybe towards the end of September, you're talking 8 to 10 weeks it's going to be able to grow, which would be more than enough. I may even like terminate it prior to that, and to give it plenty of time to really break down, because as the fall comes and the temperatures cool down, your cover crop's not going to break down nearly as fast as like a spring cover crop that's going to be, you know, cooked with the heat and the sun and the wind and the rain of the summertime. So it may take a little bit longer. So this is also another experiment for me as well. So I hope you guys learned something here about cover cropping, about amending your raised beds, about just getting the idea of planning ahead. You know, if you're going to plant a fall crop, you need to start planting in the summer. I always say you need to be thinking one season ahead. In the springtime, what do? You know, you're going to plant stuff in the winter time, so I'm trying to say you're going to have windows and grow lights and these things to plant in the spring. In the springtime, you're getting your tomatoes and your peppers in the grow lights to plant for your summer crops. Well, if you want to plant fall crops like garlic and things like this, when do you need to plant? In the summer. Always think one season ahead, and you're always going to do better off than those guys or gals who wait till the last minute, rush out, buy some dirt, and throw something in it and hoping for the best. So guys, this is Dave, your Hillside gardener here. I'm going to get planting this cover crop and get this deer netting put back on and back inside, because it is about 90 degrees and I'm sweating so bad. So yeah, you can't complain. It could be cold, so I'm not going to complain. All right, guys, have fun with your gardens. Go experiment, learn something new. Have a great day. Please subscribe, hit that thumbs up, leave some comments if you liked what you saw. We'll see you next time here on the Hillside. All right, guys, bye-bye.